I want to welcome everybody to the Waukegan Town Hall. My name is Jane Ferry, and I am in public relations for the city of Waukegan. It's my pleasure to welcome you here. I'm going to do a couple of logistic things first, just so everybody knows. Restrooms are directly in back of the, if you go up the main aisle, those are the restrooms that are open. We are going to take all questions at the end, so if you have questions for the individual department heads as we go through, I would ask that you write them down or hold them to the end. You'll have about a minute to ask your questions, so try to be as concise as possible so that we can all get our questions in. Most of you, or all of you maybe, signed in front or got a card with a pen if you wanted to write your questions down. They will be fielded by the staff by Monday of next week. We are doing a number of the department heads up here are going to do presentations, but because all of them are not doing presentations, I do want to go ahead and introduce everybody. So I'll start with you, Chief. Chief Edgar Navarro. He is our police chief, interim police chief. Fire Chief Greg Pazer is next to him. Marvin Coleman is actually not a department head, but we're glad that he's on stage with us. You'll see him later. He's going to be very important to all of us. Chris Garland is next. He is the Director of Public Works. Larissa Garland is next to him, and she is the Director of CDBG, which is Community Development Block Grant. Next to Larissa is Thomas Millard. He is Government Affairs. Wow, Thomas, good for you. You got a clap on that. Next to Thomas is Don Schultz. He is our Interim Finance Director. Next to Don is Noelle Kischer-Lepper. She is the Director of Planning and Zoning and Economic Development. And sneaking in on stage are one of our lawyers that is, I'm just going to use the whole firm. Should I do that? Or should I say Stu and Kelly are sitting next to each other on stage? They are our corporation counsel. Next to them are the friends at Robinson Engineering. They're going to be doing a presentation tonight. I can't actually see who's next to them, but I know I haven't said Jesus yet. Jesus Alquicira. I can't roll the R quite like you can, but I think that'll get it. Jesus is our city engineer. Next to Jesus, if you could lean forward, is Antonio Dominguez. He is our director of the water plant. Next to Antonio is Ron Gardella. He is our IT director. Next to Ron is Bob Bentz. He is our Director of Risk Management. Next to Bob is Lisa May. She is our Lakefront Coordinator. And next to Lisa is Tamika Jones. Sorry, Tamika, you were sitting a little bit far back. I couldn't see you. She is our Director of HR, Human Relations and Human Resources. And next to her is George Sellis. He is our Building Commissioner. Again, some of these people will be doing presentations today, but it is my honor to turn the podium over to Mayor Taylor. Mayor?
Thank you, everyone. Good evening and welcome to the City of Waukegan's Town Hall meeting. For those of you who don't know who I am Mayor Ann Taylor, and I'm very pleased to be your mayor, and I'm very pleased to be here tonight to have a community that wants to be engaged with us and work with us. So thank you for being here. This evening is also special to us because as we gather here in the historic Genesee Theater, most of you may not realize, but this theater is almost a century old. So it's something to celebrate for our city. Our city works better when our residents are informed and engaged, and that is one of my missions. This evening will allow you the opportunity to ask questions about our city operations to several of our department heads and other officials from the city. So whether you have questions about policing in our city or local environmental concerns, or seeking information about upgrades to our water plant, lead pipe replacement, our roads, capital improvement plans, code enforcement procedures, or economic development, hopefully we're going to answer all your questions for you. We'll have brief presentations from a couple of our city departments, and if you have a question, please hold on to it. As Jane said, we'll open our questions at the end of the presentations. We are asking that this is not a public comment time, that these be questions, so they should be about around a minute. And then you get one question, and then if you have further questions, you can write them on the card, and we will be more than happy to get back to you on those. Before we begin this event, I want to sincerely express my gratitude to Jane Ferry for all the work that she's done in putting this evening together. As you can imagine, Jane has a lot of regular activities at the City of Waukegan, so putting this on her calendar was a lot, and I want to thank her, and can we please give her a round of applause? Being your mayor is challenging, but something I deeply, deeply enjoy, and I'm so honored to have the privilege of doing. I'm very appreciative of the hard-working, vibrant, and diverse staff that represents our community, as you can see here today. And when I arrive early in the office each morning and leave in the evening, I know that we are fulfilling our promises to work for this community to engage economic development and to ensure that Waukegan continues to thrive as a place to work and play. The last several years, as many of you know, have been challenging for our community. Unfortunately, the COVID-19 pandemic disproportionately impacted communities like Waukegan. But as we exit this pandemic, I'm proud of the progress that we have made in several areas, and I'm proud of the residents like you who have overcome so many challenges. We have worked incredibly hard to run a fiscally responsible city, and as a result, our financial position has drastically improved. We haven't taken on any debt, and we haven't raised your taxes, contrary to what some of you may think. We have not. This fiscal success is primarily based on the fact that we are running a city government that we hold our team accountable for and encourage everyone to find ways to create efficiencies to maximize our spending, maximize the spending that we do. Our team has also been working diligently to increase the number of grants that come into the city coffers. And as every team member here knows, you are constantly asked, how are you planning on paying for that? What grants can you get for the city? I'm sure they're tired of hearing me say that to them. We've also increased our community engagement. Waukegan has a vibrant nonprofit community, and we regularly meet with many nonprofit organizations from here and throughout Lake County and the region at large to find best ways to serve our Waukegan residents. We also work very closely with our faith-based leaders, as one of our city's greatest assets is the strength and purpose our residents find in their faith. While there's no final date yet set for the Illinois Gaming Board for the casino, we are confident that the temporary American Place Casino will be opening very soon. I would expect within the next couple of weeks. The development will bring money into our city to support much-needed capital improvement projects, and most importantly, the casino itself is not only the piece of active economic development, but it is an entertainment place for our residents. If you go and talk to retailers and restaurants near Fountain Square, they'll tell you that we know our business will vastly increase with the casino as our neighbor. And one of the chain restaurants has even mentioned that they specifically think that their location at Fountain Square will be the busiest in the state. And our economic development efforts are also focused on the lakefront and downtown as well. I'm pleased that the governor was here just last week to celebrate the opening of the Student Center at the College of Lake County Lakeshore campus. And in addition, that building, we have increased parties in the downtown block that the city owns as well. Lastly, the ballot in April's election will have a referendum question. The referendum, if passed, would change our city from a mayoral council form of government to a managerial form of government, which is also sometimes referred to as a council manager form of government. And I know our city's corporate counsel, Stuart Weiss, will speak to this in a moment, but I want to be very direct about the facts of the situation. No matter what the referendum's outcome, I want the city to still have 9 aldermen elected by their wards, just as it is now. I understand the value of our aldermanic system here in Waukegan. After all, I proudly represented the 9th Ward for 6 years. And we have plans to ensure that the referendum passes, we retain elected aldermen by ward. Thank you, everyone, for taking your time tonight to come to this meeting. I thoroughly hope that we help answer questions for you, but Before I end, I want to acknowledge the elected officials here. So I will introduce our aldermen, but then I also want any other elected officials to also stand. So we have First Ward Alderman Sylvia Bolton. Can you stand up, please? Second Ward Alderman Pat Seeger with us tonight. Fifth Ward Alderman Edie Newsom. Sixth Ward Alderman Keith Turner. Seventh Ward Alderman Felix Rivera. And Ninth Ward Alderman Thomas Hayes. And we also have Janet Kelly, our city clerk. And then, would any other elected officials like to stand and be acknowledged? Come on, don't be shy. Okay, so we have Mary Ross Cunningham, Vice Chair of the Lake County Board. I can't directly see, is that Sugar Young? Yes. From our sewer reclamation. And then Charlotte and Rick Riddle from the Waukegan School Board. Any other elected officials? Who is that? I can't. Anton Matthews, sorry, Anton from the Park District. Did I miss anyone? Okay. At this time, I'm going to introduce Corporate Counsel Stuart Weiss.
Good evening, everyone. So for those of you who have come to the City Council over the past few months, you may have heard some of this. For those of you who do not, I hope you enjoy your Monday evenings. I guess there are things that people do on Monday nights besides attend City Council meetings. So tonight I'm going to do a very brief discussion about the referendum proposition that will be on the ballot on April 4th at the consolidated municipal election. As this is a referendum that is a live political question, this is going to be before the voters, the city, what you're not going to hear from me tonight is whether this is a good or a bad idea. In fact, the city cannot expend resources or cannot make statements for or against a political position, in the same way that the city could not say that you should vote for or against a particular political candidate. What the city can do is provide some basic education and facts about what the referendum would do, and then the voters and various advocacy groups who may be for or against this will need to make their cases as to whether this is a good or bad idea for the city. So, right now, the city of Waukegan, as the mayor said, functions under what is known as the mayor-council form of government. This is the default form of government under the Illinois Constitution. And what that means is you have a mayor, you have aldermen, and all the legislative power is in that city council, and all the executive power, basically the running of the city, sits with the mayor. What is being proposed is to change this so that the administrative and executive functions, the running day-to-day, managing a staff, managing the physical plant of the city, dealing with HR issues, dealing with budgeting issues, that would be handled by a professional manager, someone who is trained in that, someone who's hired by the city council to do that. The city managers would be management, as I said, of all executive and administrative functions of the city, hiring of all department heads, preparing an annual budget and a capital plan. The mayor and the city council would retain all legislative authority and could hire and fire the city manager. Now, this switch is actually a change in the form of government. It switches the laws that Waukegan would be organized under from one chapter to another of the Illinois Municipal Code. I'm not going to bore you with a bunch of citations, but it matters a lot from a legal perspective of kind of the nuts and bolts of how the city is run. It doesn't really affect how the services are actually delivered to the citizens. But this is a big enough change legally that it requires that a referendum be put out and that the voters decide this. This referendum was placed on the ballot by a group of citizens who circulated petitions, and then also they filed those petitions with the city clerk. They also went before a judge and had a hearing, and this referendum was placed on the ballot. It is not, there's two types of referenda that you can have in Illinois. One is binding and one is advisory. Advisory means it's like just a little poll. Well, what do y'all think? And you can take it or leave it. A binding referendum has the force of law. So if approved, this actually has the force of law and changes the form of government. And it happens immediately after, would happen immediately after the election results have been certified. Now, what does that mean? That means that at that point, the city would have the authority to recruit and hire a city manager. It would need to make some changes to its municipal code to do that. And there would be a process where a job description would be created. There would be probably a wide-ranging search, whether it be regional or national. There'd be an interviewing process. There would be probably a negotiation period for a contract. And the city council would then have to make a decision as a body to hire the city manager. What would not change? The terms of the current sitting elected officials and those who will be elected at the 2023 consolidated election. So mayor and the clerk and the treasurer, nothing changes about that. They would still serve until 2025. The aldermen who would be elected at this coming election, they would serve their 4-year term. They would represent the wards through 2027 with no change. By other provisions of the Illinois Constitution and the Illinois Municipal Code, the elected officials' salaries during their current terms of office, by law, you can't change those. That's in the Constitution, and there's a reason for that, that they don't want elected officials giving themselves raises during a term, and they also, on their way out, don't want them basically docking the pay of the people who are following them. So, and then one more aspect, that the mayor and the city council's roles would not change in the mayor's role as an administrator would not change until a city manager was actually hired. When I talk about the form of government and I talk about what could change, right now the city's current form of government being mayor-council, you have a mayor, you have 9 alderpersons, 1 from each ward. We're just shy, population-wise, of having a 10th ward. We're about 300 people shy. We may get a 10th ward with the next decennial census. All of those alderpersons serve concurrent 4-year terms, and then the mayor, clerk, and treasurer are elected for 4-year terms in non-aldermanic election years. There's been a lot of discussion about what could change if this referenda is passed and nothing else is done. If Article 5 is adopted and we switch to a managerial form of government, there is a default setup for Article 5 communities. That is, and this is just in the code, if you were starting a new community and you wanted to be an Article 5 managerial form of government, it would have 6 alderpersons, there'd be no wards, they'd be elected at large, and the alderpersons would be elected for 4-year staggered terms, 3 elected at the same time as the mayor, clerk, and treasurer, and 3 in the off-year elections. This change, the earliest that this could happen would be 2027. Now, as the mayor said, And as many of the council have talked about, that is not a change that many people are clamoring for. That is not something that people were looking to do. And so if that is the case, between now and 2027, the city would have 4 years basically to adopt another referendum saying that it would like to keep wards, and it would like to keep only one alderman per ward. And that's a little bit of a quirk because there was a time when Waukegan had 2 aldermen per ward. I believe it went through Alderman Moisio is not here. He always educates me on when that changed. I think it was in the 70s or 80s. And so another referendum would be required to basically keep things as they are and keep a manager. That is the extent of my presentation today. There may be questions. We'll take them at the end, but thank you for your time. And hopefully this will be the driest presentation of all the ones you're going to get tonight.
Thank you, Stuart. Next up, we have Chief Navarro.
Hello, Waukegan. It's a pleasure to be standing up here in front of you today. I'm going to start off with talking about our crime rates, the crime rate that we had last year. Most of our percentages increased throughout the year, and there is a couple of factors that I'll address with you as to why these numbers are a little higher. So in 2022, we had 10 homicides. In 21, we had 8. Our rapes went up by about 5. Our robberies went up by about 30. Our batteries actually went down by about 27%. Burglaries were increased by about 40. Thefts were also increased. Stolen motor vehicles had about 24 added motor vehicle thefts. Arson increased about 5. But our total gun seizures actually increased from 203 in 2021 to 278 in 2022. So with that being said, our gun seizures went from 278 gun seized in 2022. It was an increase from 203 in 2021 to 278 in 2022. So our officers are working, they're stopping more vehicles, and they're being productive. But along with that, unfortunately, our staffing levels were at its absolute lowest since I started on the job about 24 years ago. And that has a lot to do, it had a lot to do with COVID, the closing of police academies. We had issues trying to retain officers because they were still retiring, and we had a difficult time recruiting. One of the things we did implement was having officers from other agencies being able to apply, and we had a lateral program, so that helped increase our staffing levels. What we've also done to help out with our crime rate is I've increased our partnerships with our local, county, state, and federal agencies. We're attacking crime on numerous fronts. So we currently have long-term and short-term investigations going on with multiple agencies. The focus here is on violent crime, because it obviously has a very drastic effect on all of us. We have flock cameras that you probably are aware of. We have them installed throughout the city, and those have been paying off in numerous ways as we investigate our cases. And I also recognize the importance of community involvement, and I'm also committed to further building those relationships. The Waukegan Police Department, along with other departments, have had, I've addressed it already. I just want to make sure I'm covering everything. Right now, we currently have a list that's about to expire. One thing that I'm proud to say is we're trying to recruit more members from this community. And with that being said, when someone comes to apply, there's a $40 fee, and there's a second fee that they have to pay for a power test. So what we've done is decrease the fee in half, and now we're going to offer a state-mandated power test so we can attract and recruit more from within this community. So we're hoping that more people will be able to take advantage of those opportunities here in Waukegan, because recruiting from within this community is very important for us, and we are putting many efforts in place so that we can increase our numbers here in Waukegan. So once the date is finalized, it will be on the city's website, so we hope that everyone has an opportunity to get on the city's website so they could see when that exact date for our next exam is going to take place, so you could share it with your community, with your family, with your friends. Another thing that we're taking part in is a gun buyback program. So we've partnered up with Most Blessed Trinity Church, and we are going to begin that program within the next couple of months. A hard date hasn't been set, but our idea is to purchase weapons from people in the community with no questions asked. And there'll be probably, we're looking at about $100 for every weapon that's turned in that will be given that person, and we're not documenting any information at all. So it will be entirely anonymous. So if you know any family members, friends, neighbors that have a weapon that they like to turn in, we ask that you take advantage of the program because there will be 0 questions asked that day. The police department also has another new tool that we're going to implement to report tips. Right now, I know that there's individuals that have issues with calling the department's tip line and leaving a message on a crime that you may have witnessed and have information on. So what we are going to do is implement a tip app. So that tip app would be available on your Apple phones and on your Apple and Android devices, so that now you can go right on your phone, leave a tip, and it will be entirely anonymous. We will not have any information on where that came from. But you'll have a couple other options to go along with that, and one will be the TIP app's website, and also the city's website will have further information if you want to leave that tip on the city's website. So we hope that you take advantage of that. The last thing I want to address is an incident that we had recently here in the city of Waukegan in the area of Grand and Green Bay at a currency exchange, and we've received many questions on it. And the important thing that we have to consider is respecting the integrity of the investigation when an outside agency is conducting that investigation, because they have their own guidelines, rules, and policies. But as the chief of police and a Waukegan resident, I have a very delicate line to walk when it comes to providing public information. Our police department must balance the need to maintain every investigation's integrity with our desire to share as much information with the public as possible. I understand the frustration our residents have when it comes to not having all the information on high-profile incidents that happen in my hometown. I want you to know that I, along with our department's leadership, will always lean heavily towards giving out as much information as possible when it comes available and when we can. Unfortunately, we aren't always able to share all the details, which is frustrating for all of us. It truly is. When it comes to the incident that happened on January 25th at the 3200 block of Grand Avenue, this is what I can share with you at this moment. At approximately 2:10 p.m. on January 25th of 2023, an officer from our department responded to the 3200 block of Grand Avenue in Waukegan for a stolen motor vehicle investigation. Upon our officer's arrival, a 32-year-old male subject began to flee the scene. Our officer gave chase to that subject, and a struggle between the officer and the subject ensued. During this time, the subject drew a firearm. Again, the subject drew a firearm. During the struggle, the subject fired this gun and shot himself. The Waukegan Police Department and its officer did not fire his weapon. The Waukegan Police Department's officer did not fire his weapon. The subject was taken to a local hospital, and unfortunately, he was pronounced deceased. While this is not an officer-involved shooting, the Illinois State Police have taken over the investigation, as this incident involved the death of a subject. Our Waukegan police officer is on administrative leave. Again, if I were empowered to share more details of this incident today, I would gladly do so. However, our agency is not leading this investigation. We're not at liberty to discuss any further information in this investigation. I will stay engaged with the Illinois State Police and provide updates when we can. Again, please understand that this is a very, very sad situation for our community, the deceased subject, his friends and family, and the officer who experienced this unfortunate event. Now, again, I'll be taking questions at the end of when all the speakers are done up here, and unfortunately, when it comes to that subject, I will not be able to speak on it any further, as the integrity of the investigation is critically important. And the Illinois State Police is in charge of the investigation, and when they feel the time is right to give that information out, believe me, we will present it. If I was able to do that today, I would. Thank you very much for your time. And just want to announce the next speaker that we have from Government Affairs, Thomas Maylard.
Good evening, fellow residents. My name is Thomas Maylard. As Chief indicated, I work with the city in the mayor's office as well as with the planning department, but I'm here to talk to you tonight about environmental issues, specifically two, and to give you both some recap as well as some recent information on both ethylene oxide as well as coal ash. So as a recap for the public regarding ethylene oxide, or as you may have heard, ETO, in 2018, there was a news report and a federal report that described the risks of emissions from ethylene oxide, a chemical that is used by two local companies as well as throughout the country, but specifically to our communities, Medline here in Waukegan and Vantage near the border in Gurnee. Based on a number of the concerns, in 2019, the city partnered with the Village of Gurnee as well as the Lake County Health Department, and we initiated air monitoring, which was existing in other communities. And at that same time, due to a lot of public pressure, both in the state as well as federally, the state of Illinois particularly passed stricter regulations governing the emissions of ethylene oxide emissions. But obviously, we understand that there continue to be concerns. So in the past year, of note, and of significance in the winter of 2022, a local group, Stop ETO, had applied for, and it was announced they had received federal funding that would be used for fence line air monitoring to monitor the ETO emissions. And while while the results of that and even that testing has not begun, we certainly will be tracking that closely and we'll share information as we have that available to us. In addition, actually just as of a few months ago, the US EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, released a report on high-risk ethylene oxide sterilizing facilities throughout the country. And while thankfully that did not include Medline here in Waukegan as high risk, and it did not include Vantage either because they are not a commercial sterilizer, there also continue to be some concerns. As of yesterday, there was a report that has been released by the Union of Concerned Scientists highlighting some of their concerns. We are, of course, actively reviewing that. And again, as we are aware of information that's pertinent, we will, of course, share our positions on that. Additionally, the US EPA is expected to release some updated federal regulations on commercial sterilizers, but as I noted as the example, Vantage is not a commercial sterilizer, so it's yet to be known in terms of what the impact of those regulations may be, or if they're stricter or more lenient than what the state already permits. And obviously, our goal is to educate the public, and we understand the public deserves to know what we do regarding that, so we take that very seriously. Regarding coal ash. So coal ash is a byproduct of essentially the burning of coal, which contains heavy metals and toxins such as lead, mercury, and arsenic. And after it is burned, that byproduct is stored oftentimes in coal ash ponds, such as the ones here in the NRG Midwest generation site on the lakefront. Well, last June, NRG Midwest generation closed. The coal burning no longer exists. However, there is some continuing operation as a peaker plant. But those coal ash ponds still exist there. And the mayor and the city council have publicly stated and have made it clear that it is unacceptable, that it is an unacceptable option to leave the coal ash on our Lake Michigan shoreline, and that we treat this with the highest sincerity and seriousness about removing that from our shores in our community. So we are taking steps federally, state, and locally to address this. First of all, we're monitoring that the U.S. EPA announced last week that they are accepting public comments on deadlines regarding their new rules for closing coal ash ponds. So we're reviewing that actively, and certainly we welcome the public to participate in that as well. In the state, we are thankful that our City of Waukegan legislators, State Representative Rita Mayfield, Senator Adrian Johnson, have sponsored legislation requiring that the coal ash ponds here in Waukegan, next to Lake Michigan, must be removed. We appreciate a lot of support from our other state legislators here in Lake County and throughout Illinois, and we hope to have that passed this year. And we take that seriously because there have been recent reports that stress and highlight the importance of this. The Illinois Pollution Control Board last year determines that NRG is responsible for groundwater contamination due to coal ash. The Illinois EPA has also indicated that there is other coal ash that is on the site beyond the 2 coal ponds that are often spoken about. And lastly, there was an Environmental Law Policy Center report that talked about the risks of climate change, flooding, and the continuing existence of coal ash on our lakefronts. And then certainly locally, with the support of the mayor, with the support of our aldermen, specifically, the city has an intergovernmental committee, which, led by Alderman Florian, has drafted a letter of government supporters of our efforts to remove coal ash from our lakefront. And that has support from the Lake County Health Department, Lake County government, the school district, Park City, the Port District, and other entities, and we appreciate all of those partners in our effort to keep our health and safety ongoing. At this time, again, I'll take questions at the end if there are any, but at this time, I'll be handing the mic off to Antonio Dominguez, our Director of Water Utilities, the water plant. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm the Director of Water Utilities for the City of Waukegan. I oversee the Water Meter Department and Water Main Department. Today, I just want to talk about the many projects that have been going on at the water treatment plant for the last 4 years. But I'll speak on the current projects, which are the West Reservoir, which is a tank that stores the finished water, and that's pumped to the storage tanks and then out to the city for the residents. And we also just started the raw water pumping station, which will include 3 new raw water pumps that bring the water from Lake Michigan into the water treatment plant, and also electrical equipment that was put in 1968, so it's time for an upgrade. And we also are looking into start our water treatment plant SCADA system, which is our computerized system for the water treatment plant that starts and stops pumps. We can adjust chemicals through the computer. And we also have new pumps and new storage tanks for the chemicals.
and that was a project that was done in the last 4 years. And we also received $3.2 million from Congressman Schneider's office for a grant for the SCADA and the electrical equipment at the water treatment plant. And also, we have a water main project going on at River Road. It's in the engineering stage right now, and we will be going out to bid this year for the water main and the roadway improvements. And another project that we also will be doing will be the lead service line replacement program, which we'll be talking a lot about today. So I'll let Jesus and Robinson Engineering talk about that. So if you have any questions about water quality or anything to do with water meters or water mains, you can call the water treatment plant or the water meter department. The phone number's on the city website. And thank you.
Thank you, Antonio. That's okay. Chris Garland, you're next, Director of Public Works.
Thank you, Jane. Good evening, everyone. I'm the City of Waukegan Public Works Director, and I'm here to talk to you guys about the roads in our city and just enlighten you on some things that we're going to be doing and moving forward with on this year. The City of Waukegan Road Program will consist of roads outside of an area we have marked for lead pipe removal. You can look at this map online at the City of Waukegan's website. Last year, we started this process of replacing roads in different wards that have the least amount of lead pipes. If any, later we will be replacing those pipes. I also would like to share with you about the grants that the mayor was speaking on. The City of Waukegan Public Works Department has been granted grant funding from the Lake County Councils of Mayor, and they will be replacing 2 of our roads within the city on this year in late August. Those roads are Glenflora Avenue from Macquarie Road to Lewis Avenue, and they will be replacing the roadways, the curbs, sidewalks, and the ADA ramps. Another road that they're going to be replacing is Sheridan Road from Greenwood to Glenflora. Again, they're going to be replacing the curbs, sidewalks, and the ADA ramps. We will continue this process this year, replacing about 12,000 feet of roads, curbs, and sidewalks. Public Works will continue to pothole patch throughout the community. We will also do what we call spot patching, which is where we take a section of road and replace it by repaving it. We've started that on last year also. So I would like to say we are currently working on this list of roads that will be done by the start of the spring season that we will be working on this year, fiscal year 2023. So Public Works asks for your patience as we go through this process. If you have any questions after this session, you can see me or you can call our Public Works Department at 847-360-0944. Again, we ask for your patience as we go through this process. Thank you. And now I will turn it over to Commissioner George Sellis.
Good evening, everyone. I am George Sellis. I'm the building commissioner for the city of Waukegan. The Building and Code Division is following the city of Waukegan's mission statement and working with the elected officials and community to enhance the quality of life in Waukegan through education and code compliance. This is what's known as curb appeal. Curb appeal is the visual attractiveness of a property as seen from the street. This is what we've been working on for about the last year when we hired our code compliance supervisor. We also have been starting the rental building inspections again, which we haven't done in probably about 3 years because of COVID. We hope to work with all the citizens and help them through the process of building permits and code compliance cases. We hope that you will reach out to us if you have any questions on either of these issues. Thank you. And if I can turn it over now to Noel Kisher-Lepper, the Planning and Zoning Director.
Good evening. I thought George was going to talk another minute, so I put a mint in my mouth, so I apologize. It's nice to see so many familiar faces as well as some unfamiliar ones. Hopefully those become familiar. And some in the back I can't see at all because of the bright light shining in our eyes. So I am the director of the Department of Planning and Zoning and Economic Development. One of our big projects right now is our Unified Development Ordinance, and you may have seen some posters about that in the front as you came in. Excuse me. This is a project funded by the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, or CMAP, through their local technical assistance program. This is a 2-year comprehensive overhaul of several ordinances, including our zoning code, the subdivision code, the tree preservation and landscape ordinance, and the sign code. The goal is to align Waukegan's development regulations, land use practices, and community vision with the 2020 Comprehensive Land Use Plan. This UDO will help direct Waukegan's future growth and improve its economic strength. We anticipate presenting the UDO to the City Council in the fall. Public input is a key component of the process. To get connected, you can scan the QR code on those posters that are out front. They're also around City Hall if you happen to be there and want to scan it there. You can do an internet search for the words Waukegan and the letters UDO, and that'll direct you to the CMAP page. And there you can subscribe for updates, you can complete the survey, you can watch and attend future public meetings. So the Department of Planning and Zoning has been busy through a time of transition. We had retirements of half of our longtime staff who had been there for in excess of 20 years, which obviously was a loss not only in them not being here anymore, but also their institutional knowledge, their knowledge of the community, and all of that. However, we've recently been able to bring on some new planners, which is very exciting. At least one of them is here in the audience tonight. Thank you, Tyler. So they're a really exciting group, and they're doing a great job already. Our team is highly focused on the implementation of our comprehensive plan, working to address goals and adapt to a changing landscape to help Waukegan grow and develop in a sustainable way that's responsive to future conditions and best serves the Waukegan community for the next 20 years. We continue to work on some of our long-term development projects to advance the Downtown Lakefront Master Plan, which is a sub-plan of the comprehensive plan. We have a lakefront coordinator in Lisa May down at the other end of the stage. You can wave again, Lisa, so they know who you are. She is actively advancing goals identified in several of our lakefront plans and also seeking and implementing grants to improve facilities, including the new wheelchair-accessible patio, which will debut this summer, and I'm very excited about. We have South Lakefront developers who continue to be engaged in pursuing their developments in spite of some obstacles that we're trying to overcome. We continue to work with the United States and Illinois Environmental Protection Agencies to complete all the necessary cleanups on the lakefront. And we're engaged with other property owners and developers to pursue projects that conform to the comprehensive plan and benefit the community. In 2022, we approved over 200 business licenses and processed nearly 50 zoning applications through our formal approval process through the Planning and Zoning Commission. Some of those commissioners are here tonight too if you want to wave. I saw at least 2 of you. There's one. I think there's one up there. Thank you for being here tonight as well. In 2022 alone, Waukegan had almost $125 million of construction investment. We've worked with our public sector partners to support the implementation of some of their key projects, such as the College of Lake County Lakeshore campus expansion that the mayor spoke of with their new building. Hopefully some of you were able to attend the grand opening. That was a long-term pursuit to achieve goals for both CLC and the city of Waukegan. The Waukegan Park District's Carnegie Library renovation for the History Museum is really exciting. We're thrilled about it, and it was enabled by the city's donation of that building to the Park District for that purpose. And that will be a tremendous community benefit as well as a tourist attraction. We're working with the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity to expand our enterprise zone, and that will enable the development of a community solar project from which customers can benefit by purchasing electricity through the solar. In addition to our external partners, our departments work in partnership to achieve goals. We all work together frequently, and in particular, planning and zoning works very closely with the building department and the engineering departments to accomplish specific things. One example of that is that we're currently working with the engineering department, pursuing several grants for major road, rail, bicycle, and pedestrian projects that will be impactful for the community once they're completed. There are also some private developments that have received approvals recently. Raising Cane's, Ivy Hall, and Planet 13 at Fountain Square. Big Ed's on Green Bay Road. Starbucks on North Lewis Avenue. Delaney Point Luxury Apartments on Delaney Road, among others. And the one you're most curious about, as the mayor stated, the casino. The city has worked in partnership with Full House Resorts to advance a plan for the Temporary by American Place, which is the name of the temporary casino, which you see out at Fountain Square now, and we expect will open later this month, once it receives its final sign-off from the state of Illinois. After the opening of the temporary, we'll be back at the table with Full House Resorts to work on the plans, the site plan approvals, and the implementation and permitting for the permanent casino that we expect will take 2 to 3 years to complete. If you want a preview of that project, you can do that by visiting the website americanplace.com. There's a video and some images and lots to look at there to learn about what that development will be about. And now I'd like to introduce you to our city engineer, Jesus Alquicira.
Good afternoon, fellow Waukegan residents. Buenas tardes a los residentes de Waukegan, para los que hablan español. I am Jesus Alquicira, your city engineer. One of the items, well, a few items I want to talk about today are major projects that the city is pursuing. Some of these projects will have to tell you or educate you on what the process is. For example, when we have grants or any project that takes on federal or state monies, there are certain processes that we must take. Federal, state, local. Federal level requires us to acquire a Phase 1 engineering, which is comprised of a NEPA document, that is the National Environmental Policy Act, implemented in the 70s just to make sure that we are not adding any more burden to our community with environmental impacts with major developments. That process itself can take about 18 months from start to finish. After that, there is what we call Phase 2 engineering. Phase 2 engineering is the process of developing the actual drawings, or what you call blueprints. This becomes very important later on when we reach construction. By the time we are done with Phase 2 engineering, that could take about 12 months. Nowadays, we're seeing an increase in demand due to the Infrastructure Act bill. So it's taking the state and the federal government to approve some of these plans a little later, but that's okay. We'll still need the money. So from start, Phase 1 and Phase 2, we are at 2.5 years of implementation for each project. Depending on the project scope, then we are in construction. That could take about a year, 2 or 3, depending on the project, and depending on how we phase it out. As you know, the government only gives out a certain amount of money every year, so we must tier it to make sure our projects are fully funded. So now we'll move on to the projects. Greenwood Avenue Bridge. We are currently ending Phase 1, waiting IDOT approval, and hope to begin Phase 2 in the next 2 to 3 months. Approval from IDOT takes a year, and to get the drawings takes another year. So be patient, we're working on it, we know the condition of the bridge. Similar, Belvedere Avenue Bridge, we're in Phase 2, so that one will be the closest one that you'll start seeing construction. It's a reconstruction, not a replacement, so the deck will change, the beams, superstructure may not change, and definitely the substructure will not change, but it will definitely increase the longevity of the bridge. Genesee Street Bridge is considered a historical bridge. So now we have the NEPA process, and guess what? We also have to follow the historic process that takes a little longer. So these projects all take time. But we are working diligently with our state partners, our consultants, to make sure these projects are advanced, and we're not left holding the bag for any money that's not out there. And frankly, we'll take as much money as we can. So we seek other opportunities through the federal government, federal grants, where we can acquire more money and use our remaining money in the community for other projects. Next project I want to talk about is the Glen Rock Culvert. That's located between Dugdale and near Jackson. That culvert, it's in towards 30% design construction. Remember, federal, state, local. This is a locally funded project. So yes, we still have to have IDNR permits, IEPA permits. Takes time. However, we have those permits. We are completing the design and hopefully to move forward with the project in the next few months. So that will be a summer construction. Next up will be before I move on, one project that everyone could be asking is the Washington Street Corridor. That project has been on the city's books for many years now, and we are now starting to gather traction so we can complete the project. As you can imagine, it will take time to complete, but bear with us. It's a process. We're seeking as many grants as possible so we can use, again, the money that's in the city towards other projects. It's in development stages, but do know that it will get completed. We will finish the job. The next part will be our lead removal initiatives. We currently have a bid out for our CDBG FY23 lead service line replacement program. Those bids are due February 17th with notice to proceed in late March. So the streets that are outlined in that bid will start having the lead service line replaced. Do note that the IEPA requires us to start removing the lead mandatory in 2027. The mayor has emphasized her priorities are to begin the process now. We're also seeking grants through the IEPA. We were recently granted one for $50,000. I know it's not a lot, but it'll help on the inventory process. Robinson will touch more on that. And we're also seeking a 5-year plan approval from the IEPA, which will turn into additional money to the city so we can start addressing the problem that will be here for a few years, but please bear with us, like I mentioned earlier. Federal, state, local. It takes time. And with that said, I will turn it over to our consultant, Robinson Engineering, Diane Moeller, and Jonathan Flowers, and they'll be talking about the IEPA inventory process that we must complete. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jonathan Flowers. I work for a consulting engineering firm called Robinson Engineering. We were hired by the city to develop a lead service line replacement program. So that's why we're here tonight. And this is Diane Moeller. She also works for Robinson, and she lives in Waukegan, so she's intimate with this issue. It's great to see everybody here tonight, to be out and to be part of this process. We're going to give you a broad overview. However, after this, there'll be plenty of time for questions. So please, we like talking about this stuff. We want to talk to you, get you informed, and maybe answer some things that you might be worried about or thinking about. So these are the two people from the city that we've been involved with. Antonio is also involved here. That's Jesus and Chris. We're just going to go over kind of who are the players in this game. And this is the Robinson Engineering staff. So I wanted to show these pictures because you might be seeing them around the community talking at things like this, or possibly coming to inspect your home. So these are their faces. Anthony, he's a field guy. He might do inspections. So is Adam. And then Diane and I are up on stage tonight. So this is the baseline here. People talk about lead pipes. People talk about water pipes. We wanted to break it down and show you what they're talking about. So this is a house or an apartment or whatever you live in. The water comes from Lake Michigan. It gets treated by Antonio and his staff in the plant, and then it goes through a water main. That water main is in the street most of the time, sometimes in the parkway. That's a bigger pipe, about 8 inches usually. And then from that water main, it goes into a much smaller pipe that's about 1 inch in diameter, and it goes into your building, your house where you live. That's underground. These pipes are about 5 feet deep, and then they come inside your home, and they feed your what's called premise plumbing, which goes to your faucets, your sinks, all that. Now, there are 2 portions of this service line. The one portion is on the private side of the property line, and then the other portion is on the public portion of the property line, and those 2 can be separate materials. So we're very interested in determining what's on each side of that property line. Usually there's a valve at the property line that the city can use to turn off the water if they need to. That valve is called a curb stop, and it sits inside of a B-box. That B-box, I'm trying to bring it up with a click right now, but it's not working. There it is. So that's what that looks like, that valve that's in your yard. Most of the time, you don't think about it unless you're mowing the lawn, you got to go around it. So that's the valve that defines who owns which part of the service line. Jesus talked about this just a little bit. The lead service line replacement program is now state mandated. We are in the first phase of this program, which is identifying where the pipes are, where the lead pipes are, what are copper pipes. It's called developing an inventory of all the pipes in town, all the service lines. Here's the timeline up here. This law was passed in 2022. We need to do our first submittal to the state in April of 2023. Coincidentally, that's why everyone has these surveys coming out in their mail. We want you guys to be a part of this. And then there's another portion of this, which I'm trying to get to. There we go. So the inventory needs to be complete by 2024, and then lead service line replacement needs to start by mandate in 2027. The city is ahead of the game. They've been proactively involved, and we're ramping up very quickly to start now. We've gotten some funding. We're probably going to get a little bit more. I apologize. Okay. So this is the first step in determining what the service line materials are. We met with the city and we went through the existing records. So there's meter records, there's drawings, and then there's the actual repairs and replacements that have been done. They have some physical cards and some physical papers that we look at, and we also do interviews with the staff and say, what's going on here? Where do you think the lead is? Where do you think the galvanized is? And where's the copper? So based on that, we have a pretty good baseline of where things are, but then there's a more important second step, which usually gives us a lot better information, and that's sending out surveys and getting the residents of the city involved to be what we call citizen scientists. So what we would like to do is have everybody in this room, if you have a home, take a look at your water pipe and send us pictures. We will identify what your pipe material is, and based on that, you have that knowledge moving forward that if you want to sell your home, maybe if you have kids, if you want to be part of the replacement program, if you want to volunteer for sampling, things like that, you can have that choice of what your service line material is, and we can get that information out to you, and you can start to make plans and make decisions. So I'm going to turn this over to Diane now, and she's going to talk a little bit more about the details.
Thanks, Jonathan. So again, just to reiterate, we did work with the city for about a year now to develop this inventory, but the best, most comprehensive information we have is the survey that we've developed. Okay. All right, so this is the survey mailer that everyone should have gotten in the mail earlier this week. This side has a letter from the mayor on the water pipe inventory initiative, and it also has a link to the instructional videos that you can use as a reference as you're filling out your survey. The other side has the QR code and the URL that you can use to access to get to the survey, and then it also has the instructions on how to complete it. We also have a phone number that you can call if you have any questions, and that will take you to our administrative department. And we have a survey video here as well that we put together with the mayor in the fall.
Mayor Taylor here. The US EPA has asked local municipalities to survey their residents about their water service lines, and we are asking residents to help by performing a quick and easy inspection of their water pipes.
First, you will need to locate the pipe that carries the water into your building. This is found in your basement or crawl space, or outside in this type of pit. Regardless of location, it will be close to the water meter. As close to the wall as possible, use a screwdriver or key to gently scratch the surface. It should reveal the type of metal, silver or a shiny copper. Please take at least 3 photos, close-up picture of the scratch test, showing the water meter, scratch test, and any valves, showing the surrounding area around the meter. Next, please send us your photos and observations. Visit the website or scan the QR code at the bottom of the screen.
We really appreciate your participation. It'll help us better serve the Waukegan community.
La Agencia de Protección Ambiental de los Estados Unidos les está exigiendo a los gobiernos locales que realicen una encuesta a sus residentes para verificar el tipo de servicio de agua. Y estamos pidiendo a los residentes que ayuden con esta encuesta realizando una inspección rápida y fácil de sus tuberías de agua. Deberá ubicar la tubería que lleva el agua a su edificio. Esto se encuentra en su sótano, en el nivel del suelo o en el espacio de arrastre, o afuera en este tipo de pozo. En la línea de servicio, lo más cerca posible de la pared, use un destornillador o una llave para rayar suavemente la superficie de la tubería de agua. Debe revelar el tipo de metal, ya sea plata o un cobre brillante. Tome al menos 3 fotos, una imagen en primer plano de la prueba de rasguño, desde unos 3 pies de distancia y mostrando el área alrededor del medidor. Envíenos sus fotos y observaciones. Visite nuestra página web o escanee el código QR en la parte inferior de la pantalla. Agradecemos su participación. Esta encuesta nos ayudará a servir mejor a la comunidad de Waukegan. Pónganse en contacto con nosotros para obtener ayuda o cualquier pregunta. Gracias por su tiempo.
So how do you fill out the survey? When you use the QR code or the URL to get to it, this is what it's going to look like. We have the instructions on here as well in a different format. We also have the phone number for our administrative staff listed as well. And then the fillable portion of the survey starts out with an option for you to request an appointment. So if you don't feel comfortable filling out the survey for any reason, you can hit yes, and then we'll get a notification and send it along to the city to set up an appointment and fill out the survey for you. The information in asterisks are things that are required. So your name, address, property type, whether you're an owner or renter, and then the photos are all required. And we ask for your property type and whether you're an owner or renter just because it helps us with our design program. We don't use it for anything else. And then the types of photos that we are looking for, we want you to submit at least 3. We want one that shows the area around your water meter, and we also want one that shows the service line coming in at the wall here or at the foundation and connecting to the water meter, because what we want to look for, what we want to identify is this part of the pipe coming into your house to the first valve. Then we also want a photo that shows the scratch test up close where it shows the bare metal. And then we want all of these photos to be well lit and clear so we can make a positive identification from these 3. And then, like I mentioned before, if you call our administrative phone number or use that link in the survey, Marvin Coleman here will reach out to you and set up an appointment. We've got a photo of him in action, and then if he's inundated with too many appointment requests, our field staff, Anthony Pezic, will help him complete these appointments. So why should you fill out the survey? A really comprehensive inventory is going to help the city with their planning and design of the lead service line replacement program. And then during that program, when it's your portion of the city's turn to get their lead services replaced, we are directing the contractor to try to contact anyone who didn't fill out a survey at least 3 times. So if you have a survey and your service line could have been identified as copper from that survey, you will not be contacted by the contractor. So it will save you time in the future. And then the city is also holding a drawing on March 15th. 100 survey respondents will get a free annual city sticker as a thank you and an incentive for taking the time to fill out the survey. And then we also developed a public dashboard, it looks like this, where you can enter your address here. Once you submit the survey, give us about a week to identify the material based on your photos. And then you can come in and you can see whether your service line is copper or lead or galvanized steel. This dashboard is available on the city website under the Water Department webpage, and it also is a pop-up. The URL pops up after you submit the survey. So that's it for our presentation. We'll be happy to answer questions after Jane Ferry speaks next during the Q&A session. Oh, she's over here? That's right, all right.
All right. Thank you, everybody who presented. Now we are going to start taking questions from the audience. Once again, we would ask that your question is no longer than a minute long. We have a microphone down here, which Maria LaCour will be standing next to, so you can easily find it. We are asking you to queue up, if you would, and then we'll have the people up here, whoever's the appropriate person, answer it. If we are not able to get to all of the questions tonight, we are going to cut this off at about 7:45. We'll be back in the Roadshow Lounge, which is right in the back here. The doors are already open. If it hits 8 o'clock, we will still be able to answer your questions if you fill out the cards that were given to you earlier or that you can get at the table out back. So with that, let's start with the first one.
Just for starters, I thought the forum was well informed. I learned a lot. But I came to say thank you to the Public Works Director and all of his staff for keeping our streets clean. During the snowstorm, they've done a great job. I think they need to be recognized, and they need to know that. And I don't know if their aldermen from each ward have said thank you to them or not, but maybe sometime during the work hours, drop in and drop them a box of donuts or something. Show them you appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next.
Good evening, everybody. You know, I came here with good hopes. I appreciate you guys doing this, but I think we need to be a little bit more considerate. We have a lot of Latinos in this community, nobody translated. We have people that have hearing impairment, nobody is doing that. We have to be better in this community with things like that. And it's too many people for us to address all of the questions that the people have. So I implore you guys, the next time you do a town hall like this, you allow each individual department to do their own so that the people questions can really get answered. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have Maria who will translate any questions that are in Spanish to our people up here. And as you heard, Jesus and probably a couple of other people speak fluent Spanish up here. Ma'am?
Hello, I live near 200 Julian Street, and I was wondering if you had any updates on that. Okay.
Mayor, who would you like for that? Kelly is a part of our corporation council, so she will stand up along with potentially the mayor.
Because this is a multi-part question, I will have our corporate counsel address part of it and our police chief. But yes, 200 Julian is actively being pursued.
Good evening, Kelly Gandersky, Corporation Counsel. I was the attorney that handled the matter in court. Part of the settlement agreement is that the current owner is to sell the property. The property is under contract right now, and they have until early March to finalize some of those details. Until that time, they are under court orders to maintain the building and to provide a safe environment for the residents that live there and around there. We know that there continues to be some activity in the area. The calls have gone down quite a bit, I understand. I'll let the police chief talk about that. But we continue to be diligent and vigilant about that building, and we feel that the best result is really a new responsible owner coming in to repair that building in full and provide the tenants with a great place to live and also be considerate of the surrounding community. If the sale does not go through, we have several remedies available to us through the settlement agreement, and the court still retains jurisdiction. So this is under the watchful eye of the court as well. So the process is moving along, and we thank the community for being patient, but we are, from a litigation standpoint, from a prosecutorial standpoint, pushing this as fast as we possibly can to get the best result we can for the residents.
Hello, so I'm going to have Deputy Chief Brian Mullen speak on this because he is in charge of our investigators, so he can add a bit of information on what we're doing there.
Hi, everybody. Deputy Chief Mullen. The police department's been working hand in hand with a lot of city. I don't want anybody to think that this is just one department with the city that's been working on 200 Julian and the neighborhood over there. It's lots of different departments within the police department, as well as a lot of different people who are at this table here, as Kelly Gandersky mentioned. Our neighborhood policing unit has been addressing the issues, been working with some of the different neighborhood watch groups to not just focus just on the building itself, because it's more than just the building, it's the entire neighborhood. There's a lot of people that live in that building, and we're trying to help those people as well as the people who live in the community to have a proper place to live, because everybody deserves that right. So our neighborhood policing unit has been working with different people here at this table to kind of gauge what's going on, what type of problems are spilling out of that building into the community, or what type of problems may be attracted to that building. And our patrol division and our investigations division have been using extra enforcement in the area. Our patrol division just had a gun arrest in front of that building a couple of days ago from a resident inside that building. We continue to do that type of proactive patrol. And then our investigations division is following up on any investigations that may have occurred in that building in the recent past. I also like to stress that because it's a quality of life issue for not just the neighborhood, but the people in that building, that we appreciate the information from people in the community and to continue feeding the police department with information that you may have. You can remain anonymous. We currently have our tip line. That's 360-9001. That's kind of the old school way that you can call and leave a voicemail and remain anonymous. We'll follow up with you if you have some information that can help us with any investigations that are going on in that area or any tips that you have about crime. And then Chief Navarro also mentioned the new tip program that we're having that's going to be electronic. It's going to be on your phone, and you can remain anonymous once that's deployed. The tip app, as he mentioned, will be on Android, it'll be on iPhones, and it'll also be available on the web. And we are constantly seeking that input from the community. The police department can't address issues at 200 Julian or any part of the city on our own. We need members of the community to come forward and step forward and help us with information so that we can work on resolving issues. And I hope that answered some of your questions about 200 Julian. Thank you.
My name is Denise Lindquist. I live in the 7th Ward. I've been in Waukegan for 50 years, my husband for about 65. We're retired and seriously considering moving on. When we got hit with this lead business, I went on the internet, and I'm fairly good with the internet, and I studied that website, and I studied that map, and the plan, and it was really difficult. It really wasn't user-friendly. Go through it, identify where my house was. It was not in any of the colored circled areas. I know I have lead pipe coming in my house. Part of what I found was with the monies that you're going to be getting over the next 6 years, I think something like that, some of that was going to be earmarked to offset the costs to bring it in on the residential side. Am I correct on that? Okay, after those 6 years, who's going to pay for it? That's what I want to know, because my house isn't going to be done in those 6 years. And if it's not done, what is city code going to do when I put my house up for sale? So there's my question.
Hey, Sue or Robinson Engineering, do you want to come up and address that, please?
That was a good question. I'm Jonathan again from Robinson Engineering. So we've established a 5-year program to start with. That 5-year program was based on need. So there are requirements that the federal EPA and the state EPA have put out to say these types of neighborhoods need to be replaced first. Most of it's based on income and how many children are in the neighborhood. So it's health-based and it's based on the ability to possibly pay back. So the idea is to get funding first for these 5 years. We're still developing the plan for what we're going to do after that. There is more funding that is going to come through the state. They've established a fund. They haven't put money in it yet. There's also probably going to be a little bit more funding from the federal government. Waukegan is doing the best they can to develop a program that's going to hopefully reduce as much as possible the burden to the residents. It's possible in the future individual residents might have to pay. It's also possible that there will be some sort of citywide increase in incoming revenue that will be used to pay for this. The clean answer is we don't know quite yet what we're going to do, but we're going to do what's best for the residents. And also, this is a state mandate, so I would recommend, there's a lot of people here tonight, if you do have issues with it, contact your legislators at the state level. The city is trying to meet this, and they're ahead of the game. So there's a lot of moving parts right now, but the point of this initial discussion is to start the ball moving, get as much funding as possible, and affect the area and get to the areas that need it the most.
And one more item. So regarding the map, we do understand it's difficult to read. So again, very important for every resident in the city to fill out the survey so we know. We'll update it. Mayor Taylor has also been very supportive in increasing our GIS online mapping, so you can start to see a lot of changes, a lot more transparency moving forward. But like always, we're picking up the pieces where they left off, so it takes time, but we are aware of the mapping issue. Thank you.
So some communities actually started this program in 2016. Waukegan was late to the ball game, and when I came into office, we started the program because we have to have it in by this year, and 2 years from now, the final program of everybody that we will be doing lead pipe removal replacement for. So consequently, other communities have been able to get funding earlier than we have been able to. So we are actively pursuing everything we can. But I'll be frank about it, is that hurt us in a lot of ways, because why other communities were able, if we would have been ready to roll, we would have been eligible to get more grants that we were not able to get because we were not ready for it. Consequently, as we go forward, some of the available costs, like, there were non-forgivable loans for 100%. Next year, that will be 49%. So we're working to find as many opportunities as we can, and we're doing as much lead replacement as we can so that we can make sure that our residents don't have to pay for that.
Thank you all. Next.
I'm Clyde McLemore, Black Lives Matter Executive Director. I heard the mayor when she first started, she said Waukegan is a city to work and play. She also spoke about the $40 million Lake County campus, the Lake County College of Lake County. My question is, why, right across the street from that $40 million campus that they just built, right across the street is an empty space. They got more millions of dollars. They want to build a 2-story building over there. The city won't let them. That's just one thing.
Please do remember there's only one question. Please do remember there's one question per.
That lady just said 3 questions. If 5 people
One
answer,
question,
you're going to tell me
Clyde.
I only got 1 question. Okay, well, this is the same question.
All right.
Waukegan racial ethnic groups are 53.4% Hispanic, followed by 18.6% white and 18.4% black. Do any of that fit this?
Noel, are you going to talk about the 2-story building? Remember, one question, please.
So with regard to the CLC request to build on the lot where the News Sun building was formerly located at Sheridan and Madison, CLC has submitted applications for our March Planning and Zoning Commission. They can't build a 2-story building by right because our plans and our code require a 6-story building at a minimum. They require an 8 to 12-story building, but there can be a 25% variance for that. So they've applied for text amendments and variances and a conditional use permit that's required for anything in the downtown and lakefront. So they'll go through the process and get reviewed through that process, and recommendation will be made by Planning and Zoning Commission. It will then go to the Community Development Committee of the City Council and then to the full City Council, where the final decision will be made.
Thank you, Noel. Next, Jose.
Hello, Jose Guzman. Okay, I'm actually surprised I'm the first one to ask about the biggest thing in the room, city manager. Okay, so Corporation Council said if the referendum goes through, it will be a default of 6 aldermen at large per ward. Mayor Taylor said it will try another referendum for 1 person per ward. What's the quickest to put this on the ballot? Would that be the 2024 presidential election?
Stuart is going to handle that question.
I'm going to give you a very lawyerly answer. It's complicated. So, no, we're actually researching that right now because there's 2 statutes that seem to conflict a little bit, and I've been directed by the City Council to have an answer for that at the next City Council meeting. It is either going to, the soonest the referendum could be on the ballot is either going to be the 2024 midterm election. No, actually, no, it won't be midterm. We just had the midterms. The 2024 national election in November, or the April 2025 consolidated election. And there's a clock ticking on me actually getting the correct answer for the City Council by the next meeting on that.
Thank you. Next question.
Yeah, it's really exciting to hear y'all talk about, Waukegan's plans for the future, but I would like to ask or highlight within this plan development, are there any efforts for the current and persistent flooding issues that we see in Waukegan?
Jesus?
Great question. Yes, there are. We currently have 2 grants that we apply for to the Lake County Stormwater Management Commission that will address flooding issues in the 7th Ward. And in the 5th Ward, there is an ongoing flooding issue. We are aware our next year's budget and the subsequent years will have proper engineering services that come in, do it the right way, meaning we don't want to just do a job that's somewhat okay. We want to make sure we get the quality job to start mitigating a lot of these issues. I go back, a proper engineering plan takes time, takes effort, takes professionals. My department is here to steer the way. There are a lot of projects in the city that are currently working on that you don't get a chance to see because everything's a process. As I stated earlier, federal, state, local. Our funds are limited. There are, and I've advised our aldermen too, every time they have a flooding concern, please let me know. As our maps are being developed, the city will have the chance to plot them. That way, when we do have opportunities to apply for grants, we know what the issue is. So do understand when you reach out to your alderman, don't assume it's not going anywhere. It's getting to my office, we're recording it, but please be patient because funds are limited and we know that we have a flooding issue. Thank you.
The great thing is we never used to have a city engineer. Our last engineers were laid off in 2008 and we didn't have an engineering department, but because of Jesus and our engineering department, more of these issues are being addressed more rapidly.
Hello, Carolina Fabian. So I have a communications question, more so a couple. I know that's only one, but I'm going to try to wrap it together. So one is potentially having the forum invitations being mailed out. I'm seeing a lot of communication coming that people were not aware because they didn't get it through email or social media. And then potentially having this also play live because a lot of people were at work and unable to attend. And so they're not able to participate and see what's going on. And potentially having a forum in Spanish so that the presentations are also in Spanish, not just, translated every now and then. So I know it's a big ball of communication. But.
That's fantastic, thank you.
Honestly, this was one that we decided that we needed to do as quickly as possible because of the city manager question on the referendum. We will do 2 per year, and this is a new format that we're doing. Traditionally, what has happened is each alderman has had their ward meetings and then asked for staff to be there. The problem with that is every time I have staff work above their time, I have to comp them. So if I do that for 9 different evenings, that's an awful lot. So we are going to do them twice a year. We will do them, February, March timeframe, and then we will do one in the fall. And as we progress with this, we will have more time to advertise. We will also be putting out a newsletter, which we have never done before. And then we also have e-news that people can also sign up with their email so that they can get information about coming events like this.
Hi, I'm Nicole Hernandez. A couple people have talked about accommodations, so we're looking for a sign language interpreter. We're looking for a Spanish language interpreter for the entire presentation. I'm also looking for an ADA alternative for this type of thing. So as you noticed, I got in line, the line got longer, I decided to walk around and come sit in the front. Somebody that needs ADA accommodations, whether it's a physical or an invisible disability, need to be accommodated, and we need to have an alternative method for that. So if that means like warding off the seats or whatever needs to happen, something else needs to happen for that. Then I want to say about the
Remember, it's one question. That was a statement that
was
counts.
a statement, not a question.
That still counts.
Okay, so regarding the alderman thing, the petition was submitted with sheets that were not Waukegan residents. The sheets had no yes or no even checked off. Regarding the alleged judge that it was petitioned to, it wasn't a circuit judge as the law appears to state for the municipal code number 5. I personally believe that it's all a sham referendum. That's my personal opinion. And I'll be voting no because I don't want a dictator. So if you would like to respond, feel free.
Well, I think that was more of a statement, so we'll hold that response till the next. Next question, please.
Hi, good evening. My name is Cynthia Springfield. My question is, why does the city continue to patch potholes instead of replacing streets? Personally,
Chris, I'm going to hand that over to you.
one more statement.
Go ahead.
My father has lived on the 200 block of South Park Avenue for over 40 years. The street has never been repaved. Never. It has only been patched. And again, those potholes recur every winter. So why are we continuing to waste money on patching instead of repairing?
And that's a good question. And just keep in mind, we still have to patch the potholes. You still have to drive upon the road. And we are in the process of trying to get through Waukegan with replacing our roads. We have to understand we have quite a bit of roads that need to be repaired, and we can't get to all of them. So in that process, they have to be pothole patched. And like I said before, we do spot patching where we cut out sections of roads and repave them. So again, we're trying our best to get to every road that we can, but right now, we have to do what we have to do to help you guys, help the citizens, and help everyone else that comes to Waukegan get through the city.
I will also add to that for well over 20 years, we have not had a capital improvement line item in our budget. How we have paid for our roads is to go into debt and take out bonds. Bonds to me don't make sense. Why are you going to pay on a road for 22 years that you'll be lucky last 10? So I don't believe in financing that. What I would like to do is use the money that we're going to be getting from the casino and put that towards capital improvement so that you have a regular amount that you can apply every single year to X amount of roads and you just keep rotating that. But we have never had that plan in at least 20 to 30 years. So. Have money to add it.
My name is Jasmine Rondeau. I live near Waukegan High School and I walk a lot in Waukegan, and I am excited to hear that there's going to be construction on streets and sidewalks and that accessibility is a concern. But one thing that I noticed last year during the construction on Grand, there were a lot of areas where there's cones for the pedestrians to walk out in the street, but there is construction equipment left there. Sometimes there aren't even like a thought of where are the pedestrians supposed to go while there's this construction on the street. And on such a busy road, it's dangerous. And there are several areas in Waukegan in which I feel like there needs to be a push button for pedestrians to cross the street, especially with so many major roads around schools, around homes. There are areas I feel unsafe crossing the street, and to walk and go to a push button crosswalk, it's taking me all the way out of my way to where I'm going or what I'm doing.
So some of the construction that like you have seen, like when you're talking about construction equipment that was left on Grand Avenue wasn't a road that we did. That is a state road. So I'd love to tell you we could have a whole lot of influence on other parties, but we can't always. We try to let them know, but we can't necessarily make them do that. The other crosswalk things that you're talking about are often determined by outside agencies like IDOT and that kind of thing. So it's working with other agencies, and depending who's funding that is depending who has the biggest say on how that will be implemented.
Yes, the mayor is correct. No, IDOT's a state route, so it's Belvedere Road, Green Bay Road, Sheridan Road to the south of the Amsteads, Sheridan Road, north of Greenwood, Lake County roads are Sunset Avenue, part of Lewis, south of Belvedere, north of Sunset, and some other ones. However, to keep going with the ADA transition also. To answer some of the sidewalks, and maybe a segue is we are working to have an ADA transition plan implemented in the city. CMAP has reached out to us and they do want to partner with the city. My staff will be, during the summertime, will be surveying all the corners in the city to ensure where we need the ADA ramps, the push buttons, everything else. For the construction for IDOT, I cannot vouch for them. IDOT does what they have to do. When we have projects in the local roads, that's where we dictate our traffic control. Do note that the traffic control in local roads is a lot easier to handle when you don't have speed limits that are 40 or 45. That actually takes into account transportation engineering. So IDOT has all the standards that they put out. If there is a problem with a state road, please contact your local legislators so we can push them to make sure that IDOT is providing us good service. But with that said, we are gathering a lot of data in the city that has never done before. We are working on plans that are on road ratings that are older, 2017, 18. We're working to modernize that to ensure that every single ward in the city has the appropriate money for funding for roads and to address our ADA problem. I lived in the city my whole life and I want to do the same thing, but we're moving forward. City of Progress.
Hi, my name is Carlos Smith. I live I can't even think of it right now, 22-3 Washington Street. I have a business across the street. I want to shout out the police real quick because you guys have kind of formed like this division where you guys patrol Genesee Street, and I think that's really cool. But I had a question. I don't know who's going to answer it, but what is the overall plan for Genesee Street? I know it's an entertainment district and art district. What's the overall plan, 5-year plan from now? What is it going to look like? What is it going to feel like? What businesses are going to be encouraged to be there? Because right now it's a mixture of businesses, obviously, but what's the plan from the city on what it will feel like when people come to downtown Waukegan?
Noel, that sounds like that's in your camp. And before she comes up here, it's right at 7:45, and the mayor had suggested that when we answer this question, please do come up, that we'll take questions back in the Roadshow Lounge, which are the open doors in the back here. Rather than having everybody stand in line, you'll be able to talk to people directly. So as soon as this answer is done, then we're going to go back to that Roadshow Lounge and answer questions back there. Noel?
I'll say something really quick to that. Honestly, I'd love to tell you that 5-year plans always stick with Waukegan, but when you change mayors every 4 years, plans don't always stay. There hasn't been that consistency. We do have plans, but they don't always stay. But I will let Noel tell you what the plan is that we have right now.
Before I answer that question, can I add to Jesus's answer for the last question? And that's just to let you all know while you're here, before we lose the audience, that there is a public meeting on Thursday the 23rd at John Lewis Middle School about the Lewis Avenue reconstruction that will be done by Lake County DOT. So it's their meeting. It's an open house from 5 to 7. Is that right, Jesus? Thomas, thank you. 5 to 7, Thursday the 23rd at John Lewis Middle School. It's mostly 7th Ward, the Lewis Avenue modernization. So with regard to Genesee Street, it's part of our downtown central business district in the comprehensive plan, the downtown lakefront master plan. The vision is to have an active, vibrant downtown. That depends on people getting their buildings up to code, people having reasonable rent prices for businesses to come in. So that's something that the building department and I have talked about a great deal, how we work with the property owners to upgrade their buildings, to meet code, to offer those buildings to the marketplace at a reasonable rent price, and we're working on how to do that. We've had some meetings with some property owners so far. We'll be reliant on other downtown businesses to talk to businesses and help us market, help us make it an attractive downtown. And part of that also is our development opportunities. So we're actively seeking opportunities to create development sites. Many of you know that we've been pursuing the acquisition of 1 South Genesee, the Associated Bank. We are under contract for that. There are some contractual things that need to be solved before we can close, but once we do, we'll be putting out that whole block for development, seeking developers to bid on the project and offer us development things. So getting more activity, getting more residents downtown will help improve that.
Is that the final question?
Okay, so the mayor's going to jump in here and say a few words, but if I could just talk to the people up here, if you would start moving back to the Roadshow Lounge, which are the open doors back here, we would appreciate it. Sorry, Mayor.
So because we only have this until 8 o'clock and we want to make sure that we answer as many people's questions as we can, we're going to have everybody available in the back, and then we will answer everybody's questions as much as we can. But we want to make sure that the theater would like us to clear. So like I said, we will be in the lounge in the back and all the staff will be available for you. Thank you everyone for coming. This has been a tremendous turnout. Thank you. Your aldermen are also here too.